Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions regarding this watch. Today we're discussing a modern classic. Although its roots are in the first half of the 20th century, the Monopusher chronograph you see here is a product of the 1990s. Launched in 1998, this is the Cartier Tortue Monopusher, part of the CPCP collection of haute de gamme Cartier watches that ran from 1998 to 2008. This is a highly sought collectible featuring an ageless style and a movement co-developed by F.P. Journe and Denis Flageolet when they were collaborators in the THA concern that was basically a white label movement maker to customer brands, and Cartier was a customer. So we have a peerless design with a movement to match and a nice, easy-to-wear, versatile size in rose gold. 34 millimeters across, not inclusive of the crown. The watch is 11 millimeters thick and from lug tip to lug tip. 43.1 millimeters with an 18 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now the strap is brand new and it's not broken in, so it is quite stiff. Keep that in mind. As the strap softens up, the watch will look like an even better fit on the wrist. Right now I have to pull the strap a little bit tight to cinch it down so you can see how it sits. It would not nearly be so constrained and so close to the edge of my wrist if the strap were to soften up a little bit, which it will when you buy it. Now you can see over the top, the lugs are still not out over the edge of my wrist, but the best angle is down the barrel where you can see that the edges of this case come nowhere near the edge of my wrist, and you can see in profile that the watch will easily slide underneath the dress cuff. I recommend this for a wrist of 14 centimeters circumference and up. Taking a look at the strap, it's an interesting piece. It's very deluxe. Cartier does not short you the leather, as we've got large rectangular scale, symmetrical scale alligator leather on top, which means they paid for a very high-grade cut of the hide. You can also see it features a monotone stitch, a folded edge, and a little bit of stuffing, or bolstering as it's called, to add some volume so that the size of the lug at its termination roughly matches the thickness of the strap at that point. Underneath, calfskin, and you'll note there are no perforations. The watch uses a modern version of the deployant clasp originally created by Louis Cartier in 1909, when this was by far the first deployant clasp ever created for a wristwatch. So even the clasp is a classic. It is friction fit and snap shut. You can see that it has a wire style profile on the buckle externally, and that all excess length tucks underneath the clasp. So there's no need for minder loops, and these are minder loops. You don't need them here because all the excess length will tuck cleanly under the strap. We have a monoblock case here. If you'll note, there's no seam between the bezel and the case. It's all one piece, and you can see how these lateral screws actually hold the watch together. It's a fascinating construction that makes the top completely seamless, elegant, and unbroken. And it is that. You can see how fluid it is and shapely, and also how complex this sapphire is. Not a cheap piece to manufacture, and although the watch is 30 meters water resistant, same as most dress watches, 30 meters with crystals shaped like this, incredibly difficult to achieve. We have a blue spinel cabochon on a faceted crown, and we do have a coaxial chronograph monopusher, so that's how you start, stop, and reset the chronograph. The watch also includes a dial featuring a rosette style. Taking a quick look, we have Breguet style hands for the hours and minutes, and then Lancet style counterweighted needle profile hands for running seconds, chronoseconds, and chrono minutes. You can see we have radially arrayed Roman numerals, including a watchmaker's 4 and the Cartier secret signature down at Roman numeral 7, a command de fer, or a railroad track outboard for the seconds and minutes, as well as for the subdials. You can see that the subdials are slightly countersunk and contain concentric patterns. And then we have a little floral petal design at the center of the rosette dial. It is quite fetching, quite handsome, and it has stood the test of time beautifully. You can also see that this is a sophisticated chronograph movement. It ticks away at 3 hertz, or 21,600 vibrations per hour, but as it lopes along, you'll notice it uses instantaneous jumping chronograph minutes, a feature that is always appreciated. Turning it all over, you can see that the movement is beautiful, with a Cartier monogram on the bridges, solarization on the ratchet wheel, polished screw heads, a polished crenellated multi column wheel that acts as the function selector for this chronograph. The column wheel making for a very crisp feeling actuation. Manual wind here, we've got a 40-hour power reserve, 22 pivot joules. This is called Cartier 045MC, but again, this is a THA movement. The bevels are actually quite credible, and although this is a medley of hand and mechanical finish, it is a judicious one, feeling just as impressive as, for example, Audemars Piguet or F. Pigeon in that regard. This is a high-grade movement with considerably more hand-laid attention than you'd find on a conventional Cartier, say, 1847 MC. This is high horology decoration. We also have an oscillating pinion clutch. Now you can see the clutch right there at center. An oscillating pinion is a type of lateral clutch that has very little inherent play. So when you start an oscillating pinion clutch, press and hold, you can see there's no jump. It's just a seamless startup the way you would get on a vertical clutch, because an oscillating pinion has much less play than a conventional lateral clutch, which is why a lot of high-end brands are going back to oscillating pinions, including F. Pigeon, de Bethune, and Richard Mille. You can also see there's snailing on some of the lower bridges. There's engine turning on the base plate, and then we've got lovely satination, beveled sides on the steel components of the chronograph. Overall, just a legendary movement in a legendary watch, and already considered a modern classic and something of a rising collectible. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.